Hi everyone, this is the Solstice Power case study. Solstice Power was created by James Shomar, a graduate of the Entrepreneurship Master's Program here at SU. He came up with an efficient solar panel design throughout his research in the program. The sun's solar energy could be concentrated by the use of a lens, or magnifying glass. The concentrated energy would be more powerful and more efficient. Because of the use of the lens, the size of the solar panel would be greatly reduced compared to a normal solar panel size. With a smaller panel, a system can be installed closer to a building or a home and take up less physical space. A system that is close to a building can also use a heat exchanger, similar to a car radiator, to capture the sun's heat for use inside the building, such as space heaters and things. Overall, this system could avoid the use of and need for middlemen and reduce the loss of energy from transmission because it would need to travel far from the system to the user. Solstice Power has made many connections in the renewable energy industry. Some partners have agreed to actually test the energy system for James to ensure that it works. James has also applied for 2 patents so that his idea is legally protected. Unfortunately, he has no income to pay for the product development for Solstice and is relying on his savings in order to pay for his rent and other living expenses.
From the past decade, the renewable energy industry has had a growth rate of 13.7%. From 2018 to 2019, the industry has had a growth rate of 12.2%. In 2019, the renewable energy industry has outpaced the coal industry for the first time by providing 23% of U.S. power generation as opposed to coal's share of 20%. A 2017 report by the International Renewable Energy Agency found that global carbon emissions from the energy sector can be reduced by 70% by 2050 and completely phased out by 2060. For trends, there has been mandatory portfolio standard growth through the mid-2020s. As of late 2019, at least 10 utilities have announced 100% decarbonization goals, and that list has been growing in 2020. North America has been focusing on research to maximize solar potential, which is helping businesses find opportunities to grow new markets. Lastly, solar energy is classified as either a photovoltaic system or concentrated solar power system. In this case, we'll be focusing on the photovoltaic system for Solstice Power.
In 2018, the solar energy market valued at $52.5 billion and is projected to reach $223.3 billion by 2026. This growth of the solar energy market is caused by government incentives and tax rebates to install residential, commercial, and industrial panels to combat climate change. The cost of panels is consistently decreasing due to increased demand. The graph on the right shows the price of panels decreasing as installations are increasing each year. This slide shows how the solar energy market is segmented into 5 sectors: by technology, by solar module, end use, application, and by region. Technology is either photovoltaic system or concentrated solar systems. By solar module is the material that's used in the panels, either monocrystalline, polycrystalline, cadmium telluride, or amorphous silicon cells. By application, either residential, commercial, or industrial. By end use, which is what the energy generated will be used for, either electricity, lighting, heating, or charging. And by region, which is where the panels will be installed. Since the solar energy market is segmented into 5 sectors, there is high competition in the market as a whole, whether that be between installation and manufacturing companies or international and national competition. The top solar manufacturers in the world are located in Asia, but primarily in China. The top solar installation companies in the US are Sunrun and Tesla, but the largest installation companies don't always offer the best price. On average, homeowners will save about 10% when getting quotes from numerous companies. The graph on the right shows solar cell production by country. China is the black line at the top, and the US is at the bottom, next to Germany.
In order to reflect the status of Solstice Power, one must perform a SWOT analysis. The strengths the business has is that it creates solar energy that is more efficient due to the lens and reduced panel size. Installing solar panels much closer to homes and avoiding the middleman will help reduce the cost of this product as well. The efficiency and cost helps this business create a new market for itself. With these incredible strengths also come some weaknesses that have to be taken into consideration. Currently, there is no revenue coming in, no source of funding, and James also has to pay rent and other living expenses. Another weakness is that their solar panels may not work efficiently in areas that do not get a lot of sunlight, like Syracuse, New York, during the winter time. Some opportunities that Solstice Power has is that they can use the facts of how deep climate change has been affecting the planet to get people to buy their product. Currently, we only have around 7 years until the effects has become irreversible, so now more than ever, people are becoming aware of the seriousness of it all. The threats to Solstice Power is that people tend to stick to name brand companies like National Grid to supply their energy. Solstice Power will need to break out the trend of people sticking to familiarity.
The central issue for Solstice Power is the typical chicken or the egg situation. Solstice Power needs money from investors in order to make a ready product, but investors want to see a ready product before they invest. So the big question is, how will Solstice Power get funding? Solstice needs $100,000 in order to make a prototype to show exactly how the technology works in order to gain investments. Then Solstice needs $1 million for full-scale production. So our goal is to reach $100,000 to make the prototype and gain investors, who will then help reach the $1 million goal for full-scale production.
We've come up with 3 possible alternatives for Solstice Power to consider. First, applying for state and federal grants for funding for the project. Second, targeting colleges as potential customers for the systems. And 3, considering a joint venture with a local solar company.
Our first strategy is applying for state and federal grants for funding. The pros of this strategy is the money doesn't need to be paid back, but the cons are it's not a guarantee that the grant will be received.
The benefits of seeking colleges as potential customers is that they generally love finding ways to save money. Especially now with COVID-19 outbreak, colleges have been losing money, so anything that will help them efficiently mitigate that will help. Additionally, people in higher level academia are constantly surrounded by knowledge of the world, whether it be through professors or books, and have access to expensive resources to help them constantly learn. Thus, executives at colleges are more likely to know more about the seriousness of climate change, which will hopefully help increase the chances of landing partnership deals with them. Furthermore, the negative effects of seeking colleges as potential customers is that the ones who do not get a lot of sunlight, specifically those in the northern areas, may not find the product useful. Therefore, the target audience becomes much smaller.
The third strategy is to consider a joint venture. The pros of this strategy would be that James could utilize an already existing connection with one of the advisory board members, who is the chair of one of the largest solar power companies on the East Coast. This would give access to a larger amount of funding to cover the high costs associated with a broad-scale launch of Solstice Power. If the patents are approved, James's idea will be legally protected throughout the venture. And James already has completed market research with positive customer feedback that will hopefully show that the venture could succeed. Some cons of this strategy are James may lose a portion of the profits due to having to compensate the other company in the venture. With this joint venture, James may also have less say and influence in how the technology is used or how it evolves over time. The recommended strategy we have for Solstice Power is a combination of all 3 strategies we previously discussed. They should apply for any state or federal grant that the company is qualified for. They may not receive it, but it would be worth it to try and find it. Utilizing college campuses for partnerships can open doors for many opportunities. And James should capitalize on his already made industry connections and join another successful solar energy company. The short-term action plan Solstice Power should follow is to conduct research and apply for grants and funding as soon as possible. James should leverage the positive aspects of the technology to advertise to various colleges. Some of the positive aspects being a small payback period compared to an average solar panel. The amount of land required for Solstice's system is much smaller than a typical system would need, and it can also provide both heat and electricity, which most solar systems can only produce electricity. Colleges can use a Solstice Power system as an educational tool because of the environmental benefits that it has. Finally, James should come up with a pitch to present to the advisory board member to start the conversation of a joint venture. In the long term, Solstice Power should continue market research for large firms and industries that use a large amount of energy. This can be helpful to focus on key states with high utility prices and solar potential, as that may lead to more success. Solstice Power should be actively trying to engage and reach new customers online, as the renewable energy industry will be continuing to grow over time. Solstice Power has two key milestones that need to be reached. $100,000 needs to be made in order to make a prototype solar system, which, because James has won competitions and received grants already, there is only a need for about $25,000 to reach this milestone. In order to start full-scale production of the solar systems, Solstice Power needs to reach $1 million of funding. If Solstice Power doesn't receive the proper funding, James could always sell the idea for a lump sum payment.